Life is a continuous journey of transformation. You were never created to remain the same. Everything God designs is programmed for growth. Trees grow, rivers flow, children grow, seasons change. And yet the greatest tragedy is when a human being, endowed with the very breath of God, chooses to remain the same year after year. Stagnation is not your destiny. You were born to evolve, to stretch, to shed the old skin of who you once were and embrace the divine version of who you are becoming. The old version of you was necessary for a season. That version carried you to this point. It taught you lessons, built your endurance, and gave you experiences. But the danger comes when you start worshiping the old you, holding on to it as though it were your final form. The moment you make peace with yesterday's version of yourself, you stop reaching for tomorrow's potential. The old version of you is not your enemy, but it is no longer your home. Growth is never comfortable. To outgrow the old version of yourself, you must force yourself out of comfort zones. Just as an eagle forces its young out of the nest, God will disturb your familiar places to provoke your flight. The nest may feel warm, but it is too small for the wings He has given you. You will never soar while clinging to the edges of what you already know. There are habits you must bury. There are mindsets you must divorce. There are relationships you must redefine. The old you might still crave validation from people who cannot see your next dimension, but the new you understands that not everyone can travel with you into your destiny. Some voices will have to be silenced, not because they are bad, but because they are not appointed to your future. You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. That is the law of growth. The old version of you cannot carry the weight of your next assignment. What sustained you before will not sustain you now. Yesterday's discipline is not enough for today's demand. You must upgrade your habits, upgrade your thinking, upgrade your faith, and upgrade your standards. Think of a seed. Inside the seed is a tree, but for the tree to emerge, the seed must break. That breaking looks like death, but it is life in disguise. Many resist breaking seasons because they feel like something is being lost. But what is actually happening is that the shell of the old you is being cracked open so that the greater you can be released. If you refuse the breaking, you deny yourself the becoming. This is why you must force yourself into environments that challenge your growth. Surround yourself with people who stretch your vision, not those who shrink it. Read what challenges your mind. Pray beyond your comfort zone. Serve beyond your convenience. Give beyond your calculation. Every act of discipline chisels away at the old you and reveals the new you. Do not let your past version define your future. You may have been timid, but courage is your inheritance. You may have been fearful, but boldness is your birthright. You may have been broken, but wholeness is your destiny. Never identify yourself by your history when God identifies you by your destiny. Forcing yourself to outgrow the old you requires pain, but pain is the price of progress. A caterpillar must endure the isolation of the cocoon to emerge as a butterfly. You too must embrace the seasons of hiddenness where God works in silence, reshaping you for flight. People may not recognize you after transformation, but that is the proof of growth. You were never designed to be recognizable by who you used to be. You were designed to reflect who you are becoming. So I challenge you, confront your old patterns. Break out of the cage of familiarity. Do not settle for what was when you are called to what is yet to come. Force yourself to outgrow the old version of you, because everything God has for you is waiting on the other side of who you used to be. The old version of you was necessary for a season, but it is not your final form. Every stage of your life carries significance, and every version of you has a purpose attached to it. There was a reason why you thought the way you once did, spoke the way you once spoke, and acted the way you once acted. Those patterns, even with their flaws, were designed to carry you through a particular chapter of your life. Without them, you would not have gained the lessons, the scars, the wisdom, or the experiences that prepared you for this very moment. The old version of you was like scaffolding around a building. It was not the finished product, but it gave structure to the process of becoming. Yet just as scaffolding must be removed once the structure is built, you cannot cling to outdated versions of yourself. When God has called you to become more, the danger is when the old version of you becomes a prison instead of a stepping stone. Too many people glorify who they used to be and make peace with the identity of yesterday, as though it were the final destination of their lives. They say, "This is just who I am," forgetting that who you are is not who you must remain. The old you might have been strong enough to endure past storms, but that version cannot sustain the weight of your future assignment. The experiences that once served you can easily become the excuses that limit you if you fail to recognize that your past was preparation, not completion. You were never designed to be a monument to the old you. You were designed to be a movement toward the new you. Consider how a child must grow into adulthood. The child version is necessary, filled with innocence, curiosity, and dependence. But if that same child refuses to mature, what was once a blessing becomes a burden. What is cute in a child becomes tragic in an adult who refuses to grow. In the same way, the old you is necessary to teach you survival, resilience, and adaptation. But if you remain there, you risk living beneath the potential God has placed within you. Seasons change because you are not meant to repeat the same level of life endlessly. A tree does not remain a seedling, and you cannot remain the version of yourself that was only created to get you through the last season. It is important to understand that the old you will always try to cling to relevance. Old habits will whisper that you are comfortable here. Old relationships will attempt to hold you hostage to their expectations, and old mindsets will convince you that change is too risky. The familiar always resists transformation because growth demands energy, discipline, and courage. But what once fit you will eventually suffocate you if you refuse to let go. Just like a snake must shed its skin, you must shed versions of yourself that no longer serve your destiny. If you cling to them, you will remain in cycles that were never meant to last a lifetime. There is also an element of gratitude required for the old you. You cannot despise the person you used to be because that version carried you here. The old you may have been broken, insecure, or weak, but it still had the strength to survive. It still endured enough to allow the current you to exist. Yet gratitude does not mean glorification. You must thank yesterday's version of yourself, but you must not worship it. What was once essential is no longer sufficient, and what was once necessary is no longer relevant. To cling to it is to dishonor the greater future God has designed for you. The old version of you is evidence of growth already accomplished. It is proof that you have already evolved once before, which means you can evolve again. If you were once afraid and overcame fear, then courage is proof that transformation is possible. If you were once limited and broke free, then expansion is proof that evolution is within your reach. The old you is not a place to return to, but a testimony that growth is real. Every season of your life should have a former version that is unrecognizable compared to the person you are becoming. That is how you know you are walking in purpose. When you can look back and barely recognize who you once were. Growth requires discomfort. Comfort zones must be broken for wings to spread. Human nature gravitates towards safety, predictability, and familiarity. We enjoy what feels secure because it protects us from risk and shields us from uncertainty. Yet comfort zones are deceptive. They give the illusion of progress while keeping you bound to cycles that never lead to transformation. A comfort zone is like a cage with soft pillows. It may feel safe, but it denies you the space to stretch, expand, and discover the true measure of your potential. Nothing significant in life is ever birthed within comfort. Growth is disruptive by design because it calls you to leave behind what is easy in order to embrace what is necessary. Consider the eagle, one of the most powerful metaphors for growth. When an eagle senses that her young are too comfortable in the nest, she begins to remove the feathers, the leaves, and the soft materials that cushion the nest. She leaves behind only the sticks, the thorns, and the rough edges. Why? Because if the nest remains comfortable, the eaglets will never desire to leave it. They will mistake the nest for destiny, when in reality, it was only a temporary place of preparation. By introducing discomfort, the eagle forces her young to spread their wings and learn to fly. In the same way, life will not allow you to stay comfortable forever. Situations will shift, people will change, opportunities will dry up, and doors will close, not to punish you, but to provoke you to grow. Discomfort is not the enemy of your growth. It is the companion of transformation. Every muscle only strengthens under resistance. Every mind only expands under challenge. And every spirit only deepens under pressure. Discomfort exposes your limits. And in that exposure, you discover your capacity to go beyond them. A person who avoids discomfort avoids destiny, because destiny always requires stepping into unfamiliar territory. The voices of fear and doubt often arise the moment discomfort appears, whispering that you should go back to safety. But the truth is that safety will keep you small, while discomfort will enlarge. Your comfort zone is built from habits, patterns, and routines that no longer challenge you. These habits may not be destructive in themselves, but they are restrictive. They create ceilings that prevent growth. A life lived within comfort zones is predictable, but predictability does not lead to greatness. History remembers those who dared to step into discomfort, who risked ridicule, who embraced failure as part of the journey. Every innovator, every leader, every pioneer had to confront the pain of leaving comfort behind. Their courage to endure discomfort became the very force that lifted them to new dimensions. Breaking comfort zones also means confronting the fear of the unknown. Many people cling to what is familiar because uncertainty feels unbearable. But uncertainty is the soil where faith grows. If you always know every detail, you will never learn trust. If you always remain in control, you will never discover the power of surrender. Discomfort pushes you into situations where you cannot rely on your own strength alone, and in those moments, new strength is revealed. It is in the unknown that creativity is birthed, innovation is sparked, and resilience is developed. The old version of you thrives on familiarity, but the new version of you is only born when you embrace the uncertainty of discomfort. It is also important to realize that comfort zones disguise themselves as blessings. They often look like stable jobs, convenient relationships, or predictable routines. These are not inherently wrong, but when they keep you from pursuing growth, they become limitations. A job that no longer challenges you may feel safe, but it could be suffocating your potential. A relationship that enables complacency may feel secure, but it may also be robbing you of accountability and growth. A routine that keeps you busy but unfulfilled may feel productive, but it may be keeping you stagnant. To break out of a comfort zone, you must discern the difference between what sustains you for now and what is shaping you for next. Discomfort also reveals identity. When pressure comes, you discover who you really are. In the nest of comfort, you may think you know your capacity, but when storms rage, when resistance comes, when challenges rise, the hidden strength within you emerges. Diamonds are formed under pressure, gold is refined in fire, and character is revealed in adversity. Without discomfort, the greater version of yourself remains buried. You cannot know the depth of your faith, the reach of your courage, or the resilience of your spirit until you are forced into places that test you. Discomfort uncovers the layers of your true self. That comfort always conceals. Growth requires you to embrace the pain of stretching. Stretching is uncomfortable because it demands flexibility, and flexibility requires breaking rigidity. You cannot hold on to old patterns and expect new outcomes. You cannot cling to old thinking and expect new revelation. The process of stretching means being pulled beyond your limits, expanding beyond your imagination, and enduring the pain of unfamiliarity. But in that stretch, you become more. Comfort keeps you confined to who you are, but discomfort unlocks who you can become. You cannot pour new wine into old wineskins. Your next assignment requires a new you. There is a principle embedded in this truth that defines the very process of transformation. Wineskins in ancient times were made from animal hide, flexible and stretchable when new, but over time they would harden and lose their elasticity. When new wine was placed inside old wineskins, the fermenting process would cause expansion, and the hardened skins would burst, wasting both the wine and the vessel. The message is clear: the old structures cannot contain the new demands. In the same way, the old you, your old habits, your old mindset, your old patterns cannot contain the weight, pressure, and potential of what God desires to place within you next. Every new assignment requires new capacity. God will never pour fresh vision into a stale mentality. He will never entrust greater responsibility to someone who refuses to evolve from their old ways of thinking. The old you may have been enough for the last level, but it will collapse under the demands of the next. If you attempt to carry fresh purpose with outdated character, it will break you. If you attempt to walk into new opportunities with old fears, you will sabotage yourself before you even begin. If you try to hold on to old friendships that do not align with your growth, they will choke out your progress. What was once useful becomes useless if it cannot expand with what is being poured into you. The principle of new wine also speaks to timing. Every season has its own demand, and every season requires you to adjust. Just as nature changes through cycles of seed time and harvest, summer and winter, you too must change to match the season you are in. What worked in one season will not work in another. The strategies that carried you through your last challenge may not be the strategies that will carry you through your next one. New wine requires new structure, new discipline, new thinking, and new behavior. The refusal to change is the reason many people miss their moment of breakthrough. They cling to old methods while God is introducing new opportunities, and the clash between the old and the new leaves them broken. It is important to recognize that the new you is not simply about external achievements, but about internal transformation. The wineskin represents not just behavior, but identity. Who you think you are will determine what you are able to carry. If you still see yourself through the lens of the old you, you will never step fully into the capacity of the new you. You cannot carry the identity of weakness while attempting to step into the assignment of strength. You cannot cling to the mindset of scarcity while trying to embrace the assignment of abundance. You cannot live with a victim mentality while trying to fulfill the calling of a victor. The old wineskin of your identity must be exchanged for the new one God has designed for your next level. Sometimes the process of becoming a new wineskin requires pruning. Old habits must be stripped away, old thinking patterns must be cut off, and old environments must be left behind. This pruning is uncomfortable because it feels like loss, but it is actually preparation for increase. Just as a gardener prunes a vine so that it can produce more fruit, God will strip away the unnecessary so that you can carry more of the essential. If you resist the pruning, you resist the growth. The old you will want to hold on to everything familiar, but the new you must learn to let go of the challenges that transformation requires intentional effort. Wineskins did not automatically renew themselves. They had to be softened, soaked in oil, and worked with the hands until they regained flexibility. Likewise, you must submit yourself to processes that make you pliable again. Humility softens your spirit, discipline stretches your capacity, and obedience keeps you aligned with divine direction. If you remain rigid in pride, stubborn in your ways, and resistant to correction, you cannot hold what God wants to pour into you. But if you remain teachable, humble, and open, you become the vessel ready for new wine. Every new level of purpose comes with weight. Increased influence comes with responsibility. Increased blessing comes with stewardship. And increased vision comes with sacrifice. The old you may not be able to handle the weight of what is coming, which is why transformation is not optional, it is required. The new you must be stronger, wiser, and more disciplined than the old you. The new you must be more resilient, more faithful, and more committed than the old you. Only then can you carry the fullness of the assignment without breaking under its pressure. Breaking is not the end, but the release of the greater version hidden inside you. A seed must first be broken in order for the life inside it to emerge. When you look at a seed on the surface, it appears small, insignificant, and unremarkable. But within that seed lies an entire tree, bearing fruit and producing more seeds. The only way the tree can come forth is through the breaking of the shell. If the seed refuses to be broken, it will remain in its current state, never becoming what it was destined to be. In the same way, you carry within you a greater version of yourself, a future self filled with wisdom, strength, and capacity. That version can never be revealed until the outer shell of your old self is broken open. Breaking seasons are often misunderstood. Many see breaking as failure, as punishment, or as an indication that something is wrong. But breaking is not the end of you. It is the unveiling of you. When God allows you to go through seasons where relationships are stripped away, where opportunities collapse, or where comfort is removed, it is not to destroy you, but to release you. The pain of breaking is often the proof that something new is about to emerge. Without breaking, the greater you remains hidden, trapped beneath layers of fear, pride, or complacency. Breaking is the divine tool that shatters those layers so that the real you can come forth. Consider the potter working with clay. Before the clay can be shaped into a vessel of honor, it must first be pressed, rolled, and sometimes even broken down again. The process is not gentle, and to the clay it may feel harsh. But the potter knows what he is doing. He is not destroying the clay. He is preparing it for form and function. Likewise, when life presses you, when circumstances break you, it may feel like you are being ruined, but in reality you are being reshaped. What emerges after breaking is a vessel far greater than what existed before. Breaking also exposes what is authentic. When something breaks, the inside is revealed. A fruit that is never cut open can hide rot, but when it is broken, its true condition is seen. In your life, breaking reveals what is genuine and what is false. It exposes the depth of your faith, the strength of your character, and the resilience of your spirit. Many people appear strong until they face breaking seasons. It is in those moments that the authentic emerges. If your faith was shallow, Breaking will reveal it. If your hope was superficial, breaking will uncover it. But if your foundation is rooted deeply, breaking will only prove how unshakable you really are. There is also a beauty in brokenness. Diamonds are formed under pressure, pearls are formed through irritation, and gold is purified in fire. Nothing precious emerges without a process that feels like breaking. The most impactful people in history are those who endured seasons where everything seemed to fall apart, yet out of that breaking came vision, creativity, and strength that changed the world. If you embrace breaking instead of resisting it, you discover that it was never meant to reduce you, but to refine you. You cannot step into your greater self without going through the furnace of breaking. Breaking demands surrender. It requires that you stop clinging to the illusion of control and allow the process to take its course. The old you resist breaking because it feels like loss, but the new you recognizes that loss is often the doorway to increase. You may lose people, opportunities, or possessions in the breaking, but what you gain is character, resilience, and alignment with your true calling. Surrendering and breaking seasons allows the process to complete its work, producing in you a strength and maturity that could not have been developed any other way. Breaking is not only personal, but also purposeful. The pain you endure in your breaking season becomes the testimony that empowers others. When you rise from brokenness, you carry with you wisdom, empathy, and authority that cannot be faked. You become an example to those still in their breaking, showing them that what looks like the end is really the beginning of becoming. Your story of breaking becomes the seed for someone else's growth. Just as a broken seed multiplies into fruit that nourishes others, the greater version of you is always waiting on the other side of breaking. The shell of pride, insecurity, fear, or complacency cannot hold the magnitude of your destiny. Breaking is the divine act of shattering those shells so that the greater you can emerge. When you shift your perspective and see breaking as release rather than ruin, you learn to endure it with hope. You begin to understand that every crack in your life is making room for what is hidden within you to finally come forth. Forcing yourself to outgrow the old you is the price of unlocking your God-given destiny. Destiny is not stumbled upon. It is pursued with intention, discipline, and sacrifice. The old version of you will always resist change because it is familiar, predictable, and safe. It whispers that where you are is enough, that what you have done is sufficient, that there is no need to stretch further. But destiny does not negotiate with comfort. It demands that you rise above excuses, confront fears, and push yourself beyond the limitations of yesterday. To unlock what has been placed inside you, you must make a conscious decision to outgrow the patterns that no longer serve your future growth. Does not happen by accident. A seed does not accidentally become a tree. It follows a process of burial, breaking, and stretching toward the light. In the same way, your transformation requires deliberate effort. You must force yourself to develop new disciplines, create new habits, and cultivate new environments that align with where you are going, not where you have been. The old you might be content with procrastination, inconsistency, or excuses, but the new you must embrace responsibility, persistence, and excellence. Forcing yourself to outgrow the old you means refusing to let your history dictate your destiny. This process often requires confronting painful truths about yourself. Growth begins with self-awareness, and self-awareness reveals the flaws, weaknesses, and blind spots you would rather ignore. The old you may have been skilled at hiding behind charm, excuses, or distractions, but the new you demands honesty. To outgrow the old you, you must face your patterns directly and choose to break them. You cannot step into destiny with the same attitudes that once sabotaged you. Every cycle you refuse to break becomes a chain that holds you back. Forcing yourself means refusing to repeat cycles that have already proven to be destructive. Forcing yourself also requires discipline over emotion. Feelings cannot be trusted to guide growth because feelings fluctuate. One day you feel motivated. The next day you feel tired. The next day you feel afraid. If you only act when you feel like it, you will remain trapped in the old version of yourself. Discipline is the bridge between who you are and who you are becoming. It means waking up early to pray or work even when your body wants to sleep. It means studying when your mind wants entertainment. It means saying no to temptations that the old you would have embraced. Forcing yourself is choosing discipline over desire, long-term purpose over short-term pleasure. Another dimension of forcing yourself to outgrow the old you is separation. The old version of you is often reinforced by the people and environments you keep around you. Friends who only know the old you will expect you to remain that person. Environments that feed your old habits will keep you repeating them. To outgrow the old you may need to separate from voices, places, and influences that reinforce comfort. This does not always mean cutting people off in anger, but it does mean creating boundaries that protect your growth. You cannot rise higher if you are constantly pulled back to the level of the old you. The price of destiny is also sacrifice. The old you often clings to what is convenient, but the new you must learn to give up good things to gain greater things. Sacrifice may look like investing time in preparation when others are wasting time in distraction, or giving up certain pleasures so you can focus on purpose. The old you might settle for mediocrity, but destiny requires excellence, and excellence always costs something. Sacrifice separates those who merely dream from those who actually fulfill purpose. Forcing yourself to outgrow the old you means paying the price of letting go. Even when it hurts, outgrowing the old you also means embracing responsibility. The old version of you may have blamed circumstances, people, or luck for where you were in life, but the new you must take ownership. Responsibility means recognizing that you are accountable for your choices, your habits, and your growth. No one can outgrow the old you on your behalf. Destiny is not unlocked by blaming others, but by deciding to change yourself. Forcing yourself means taking full ownership of your journey and refusing to wait for someone else to push you into purpose. Ultimately, outgrowing the old you is about alignment. Destiny is not random, it is intentional. To unlock it, you must align your actions with your calling, your habits with your vision, and your thoughts with your purpose. The old you lived in misalignment, drifting without clarity. The new you must live with focus, conviction, and intentionality. Forcing yourself is the discipline of choosing alignment every day until destiny is no longer a distant possibility, but a present reality.